The late summer sun hung low over the Wyoming plains, painting the sky in shades of amber and rust as Ethan Cole guided his horse down the dusty trail toward Silver Creek Ranch. After 6 years of drifting from one cattle outfit to another, he'd finally accepted a position as ranch foreman, a job that promised steady wages and a roof that didn't leak when the rains came. The ranch spread before him like a painting, with its weathered barn, modest 2-story house, and corrals that needed mending. Cottonwoods lined the creek that gave the place its name, their leaves whispering secrets in the evening breeze. It wasn't the biggest spread he'd worked, but there was something about it that felt different. Maybe it was the way the house windows glowed warm in the fading light, or how the garden fence showed signs of careful tending despite the drought. Ethan dismounted near the barn, his boots raising small clouds of dust. He was a man shaped by loss and loneliness, his face weathered beyond his 32 years, eyes the color of winter sky, cold and distant most days. The accident that took Mary and little James had carved deep lines around those eyes, lines that told a story he never spoke aloud. Mr. Cole? He turned to find a woman approaching from the house. Anna Whitfield was younger than he'd expected, maybe 28, with auburn hair pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that held both strength and weariness. Her dress was simple calico, faded from washing but clean and carefully mended. She extended a work-roughened hand, her grip firm as any man's. "Mrs. Whitfield, thank you for taking me on. We need the help," she said simply. "Lost 2 hands last month to the goldfields. The work's hard, but the pay's fair, and you'll take Sunday meals with us at the house." Before Ethan could respond, a small tornado in the form of a 6-year-old girl burst from behind her mother's skirts. Emily Whitfield had her mother's auburn hair, but wilder, escaping from 2 braids that bounced as she moved. Her eyes were bright hazel, full of curiosity and mischief. She wore a pair of child-sized boots that had been dyed red, probably with pokeberries. Ethan guessed, and regarded him with the fearless scrutiny only children possess. "Are you the new cowboy?" she demanded. "Emily, mind your manners," Anna said, though her tone held more affection than reproach. "Yes, miss," Ethan answered, touching the brim of his hat. "I reckon I am." The girl studied him for a long moment, then nodded as if he'd passed some test. "Can you rope? Tommy Garrett says his PA can rope a running Mustang, but I think he's telling stories. I can rope well enough for ranch work." "Can you teach me?" "Emily," Anna began, but Ethan found himself almost smiling, something he hadn't done in longer than he cared to remember. "If your mama allows it, and if you do your chores first." The girl's face lit up like sunrise. "I always do my chores. I gather eggs and feed the chickens and help Mama with the garden, and that's enough, little chatterbox," Anna said, her own smile softening the words. "Let Mr. Cole get settled. The bunkhouse is past the barn. Supper's at 6. As they walked away, Emily's voice carried back on the evening air, peppering her mother with questions about the new foreman. Ethan stood for a moment, watching them go, something stirring in his chest that he quickly pushed down. He'd come here for work, nothing more. The last time he'd let himself care about a woman and child, he'd ended up burying them both. The next weeks passed in the rhythm of ranch life. Ethan threw himself into the work, mending fences, moving cattle to better grazing, breaking horses for the fall roundup. He was fixing a section of corral fence one afternoon, shirt soaked with sweat, dust coating everything, when he heard the sound of those little red boots approaching. Emily had become his constant shadow whenever her mother allowed it. She'd appear at the most unexpected moments, full of questions about everything from why horses needed shoes to where the stars went during daytime. Ethan found himself saving answers for her questions, even looking forward to her daily visits. This particular day, she seemed different, quieter, more thoughtful. She climbed onto the fence rail and watched him work for several minutes before speaking. "Mr. Ethan?" "Yes, miss." He continued working, sensing she needed the space to gather her courage for whatever was on her mind. "Susie Miller got a new daddy." Ethan's hammer paused mid-swing. "That's so? Her mama got married to Mr. Porter from the bank, Susie says he's nice to her mama but doesn't much care about her. Says she's in the way. The pain in the child's voice made Ethan set down his tools and really look at her. That must be hard for Susie. Emily nodded, kicking her red boots against the fence rail. I told her she could share you if she wanted. You're better than Mr. Porter, anyway. You taught me to rope and showed me how to whistle for the horses. Ethan's throat tightened. He pulled out his bandana, ostensibly to wipe the sweat from his face, buying time to compose himself. Mr. Ethan, Emily's voice had gone very small. If you marry Mama, will you marry me too? The question hit him like a physical blow. For a moment, he couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the memory of another small voice calling him Papa, of tiny hands that would never again reach for him. His hands trembled as he gripped the fence post. Emily must have sensed his distress because she hurried on, words tumbling over each other. I know Mama's pretty, and she makes the best apple pie in the county, and she can shoot better than most men. Sheriff Watson said so. But I'm part of her, and I don't want a daddy who doesn't want me too. So if someone's gonna marry her, they gotta marry both of us. That's only fair, isn't it? Ethan found himself kneeling in the dust, bringing himself to her eye level. The earnestness in her young face, the vulnerability hidden behind the brave words, undid something inside him he'd kept locked away for 6 years. Emily, he said, his voice rough. You're absolutely right. Any man who'd want your mama but not you would be a fool. You two are a package deal, and that's how it should be. So you understand? Hope bloomed in her eyes. If you did marry Mama, I'm not saying you will, but if you did, you'd be my papa for real? Not like Mr. Porter. Ethan had to stop, clear his throat. If I ever married your mama, I'd be proud to be your papa. Real proud. Emily studied him with those two wise eyes, then nodded decisively. Good. I'll tell Susie she can't share you after all. You're going to be too busy with us. Before he could respond, she hopped down from the fence and ran toward the house, red boots kicking up dust, braids flying behind her. Ethan stayed kneeling in the dirt, one hand pressed to his chest where his heart was doing things it hadn't done in years. He didn't notice Anna standing in the barn doorway, didn't see the way her hand covered her mouth or the tears that gathered in her eyes. She'd come to ask him about moving the cattle to the lower pasture and had heard every word, for the first time since Thomas had died 2 years ago, leaving her with a ranch to run and a daughter to raise alone. She felt something besides exhaustion and determination. Hope, fragile as a new calf, dangerous as a spring flood, began to take root in her heart. As the sun continued its descent toward the mountains, painting the ranch in shades of gold and shadow, Ethan slowly got to his feet and returned to his work, but his hands moved automatically, his mind full of a little girl's question and the terrible, wonderful possibility that maybe, just maybe, he could learn to be part of a family again. The sound of the dinner bell broke through his thoughts. He looked toward the house, where warm light spilled from the windows and smoke rose from the chimney. For the first time in 6 years, walking toward a lit house didn't fill him with dread. Emily's question had changed something fundamental, had cracked open a door he'd thought he'd nailed shut forever. As he washed up at the pump, he could hear Emily's voice through the kitchen window, telling her mother about her day, about the rope trick he'd taught her, about how Mr. Ethan understood about package deals. He could hear Anna's quiet responses, the gentle clink of dishes being set on the table. It was just another evening at Silver Creek Ranch, but somehow everything had changed. A child's innocent question had shifted the world on its axis, and Ethan Cole, drifter and loner, found himself standing at the edge of something that terrified and called to him in equal measure. He squared his shoulders and headed for the house, where supper and 2 auburn-haired females waited. Whatever came next, he knew his days of drifting might be coming to an end. The days following Emily's question took on a different quality at Silver Creek Ranch. Ethan found himself paying closer attention to the rhythms of the household, the way Anna hummed while kneading bread, How Emily set the table with careful precision despite her young age. The sound of their evening prayers drifting through the window. He told himself he was just being observant, a good foreman keeping track of the ranch's workings. But the truth was harder to deny with each passing sunset. It was a Thursday afternoon when Emily found him in the barn, oiling leather tack. She climbed onto a hay bale, those red boots swinging, and watched him work with unusual solemnity. "Susie Miller was crying at school today," she announced. Ethan's hand stilled on the bridle. "That's so. Her new papa said she talks too much, said little girls should be seen and not heard." Emily's voice carried a mix of indignation and worry. "He wouldn't let her tell about finding the robin's nest at supper. Said it was foolishness." The leather creaked under Ethan's tightening grip. "What did Susie do?" "She went quiet, real quiet, like when you put a blanket over a bird cage." Emily picked at a piece of straw. "I don't want to be quiet, Mr. Ethan. I got too many things to say, and you should say them," Ethan said firmly. "Every last one." Emily looked up at him then, those hazel eyes too knowing for her years. "That's what I thought. A real papa would want to hear about robins' nests and everything else, even if it took all through supper and past bedtime too." She hopped down from the hay bale and moved closer, her small face earnest. "I've been thinking about what makes a papa real, not just the marrying part, but the everyday parts too." "What kind of everyday parts?" Ethan found himself asking, setting aside the bridle entirely. "Well," Emily began, clearly having given this considerable thought. "A real papa would teach you things, like you taught me to rope, and he'd listen when you got scared at night about wolves or thunderstorms, and he'd let you help with important work, even if you're small." She paused, gathering courage. "And he'd love your mama, but not in a way that pushes you out, more like adding another chair at the table, not taking mine away." The wisdom in her words hit Ethan square in the chest. He thought of his own father, a hard man who'd believed children were meant to work, not be heard. He thought of the kind of father he'd tried to be to James in those 2 brief years, patient, present, interested in every small discovery. "You know what else?" Emily continued. "On a roll now. Susie asked her mama why she picked Mr. Porter, and her mama said it was 'cause they needed someone to take care of them. But that don't seem right to me. We've been taking care of ourselves just fine. Mama runs this ranch better than Mr. Henderson ever did, and I help plenty." Ethan couldn't help the small smile that tugged at his mouth. "You surely do. So if Mama ever did get married again, it shouldn't be 'cause we need taking care of. It should be 'cause—" She paused, searching for words. "'Cause that person makes our good life even better. Like adding sugar to berries. They're fine on their own, but the sugar makes them sweeter." "That's a fine way of thinking about it," Ethan said, his voice rougher than intended. Emily beamed at the praise, then grew serious again. "I told Mama about our talk, about the package deal." Ethan's heart stuttered. "Did you now?" She got real quiet. Then she said you were a good man for understanding that. Emily tilted her head. "She's been different lately. Smiles more. Wears her Sunday dress sometimes, even when it's not Sunday." Before Ethan could process this information, Anna's voice called from the house. "Emily, time to help with supper." The girl jumped up, then paused at the barn door. "Mr. Ethan, I'm glad you understand about package deals. Makes me feel safe, I guess." She was gone before he could respond. Red boots clattering across the yard. Ethan sat in the gathering dusk of the barn, surrounded by the smell of hay and leather and possibility. The child's words echoed in his mind, not about needing care, but about making a good life better. When had he stopped thinking life could be good again? When had he accepted that mere survival was enough? At supper that night, the atmosphere was charged with unspoken awareness. Anna had indeed worn her Sunday dress, a deep blue that brought out the gold flecks in her eyes. She served the meal with steady hands, but Ethan noticed the slight flush on her cheeks when their fingers brushed as she passed the bread. Emily dominated the conversation as usual, telling them about a hawk she'd seen hunting mice in the far pasture. But instead of just tolerating her chatter as many adults did, Ethan found himself asking questions, drawing out more details. What color were the hawk's wings? How did it move when hunting? Did she think it had a nest nearby? Anna watched this interaction with something soft in her expression. When Emily finally paused for breath, Anna spoke quietly. "Emily told me about your conversation, about package deals." Ethan met her eyes steadily. "She's a smart girl, knows her own worth." "Yes," Anna said simply. "She does." They held each other's gaze for a long moment before Emily piped up again. "Mr. Ethan, will you teach me to whistle like you do for the horses? I tried and tried, but all I get is air." The tension broke as Ethan demonstrated the proper tongue position for whistling, Emily pursing her lips in concentrated effort. Anna laughed, a real laugh, not the polite ones she usually offered, when Emily's attempts produced only frustrated puffs of air. "Takes practice," Ethan assured the girl. "Took me weeks to learn when I was your age." "You were my age once?" Emily asked with exaggerated surprise. "I thought you were born knowing everything about horses and roping and whistling." "Nobody's born knowing everything," Ethan said. "We all have to learn, make mistakes, try again." He caught Anna's look across the table, saw the understanding in her eyes. They were all learning here, learning to trust again, to hope again, to believe that broken things could be mended with patience and care. After supper, as had become their custom, they sat on the porch while the last light faded from the sky. Emily practiced her whistling, occasionally producing a thin, wavering note that made her squeal with delight. Anna worked on mending one of Emily's dresses, her needle flashing in the lamplight. Ethan whittled a piece of pine, shaping it into what would become a whistle for Emily. "Tell us about when you were little, Mr. Ethan," Emily requested, giving up on whistling for the moment. "Did you live on a ranch?" Ethan rarely spoke of his past, but something about the evening, about this woman and child who were slowly working their way past his defenses, made him willing to share. "I grew up on a small farm in Missouri," he began. "My PA raised corn and hogs, had 5 brothers and 2 sisters. 8 children," Emily exclaimed. "How did your mama manage?" "She was a strong woman," Ethan said, remembering. "Had to be. Pa wasn't much for gentleness. Believed in hard work and harder discipline." He felt rather than saw Anna's sharp look. "But Ma, she balanced him out. She'd sneak us honey cakes when we'd pleased her, taught us our letters by lamplight after chores. She used to say that love wasn't just a feeling, it was choosing to be kind even when you were bone-tired, choosing to listen even when you had 100 things to do." "She sounds wonderful," Anna said softly. "She died when I was 15. Things were different after that." Ethan focused on his whittling, not wanting to darken the evening with tales of his father's increased harshness. The reason he'd left home at 17. "Is that why you understand?" Emily asked with the startling intuition children sometimes possessed. "About listening and being kind? 'Cause your mama showed you how?" Ethan's hands stilled. From the mouths of babes, he thought. "I reckon so, little miss, I reckon so." Later, after Emily had been sent to bed with protests about not being tired despite her drooping eyelids, Ethan and Anna remained on the porch. The night was soft around them, crickets singing their ancient songs, a cool breeze carrying the scent of sage. "She adores you," Anna said quietly. "She's easy to adore," Ethan replied, then felt heat rise in his face at the admission. Anna was quiet for a moment. Her father, Thomas, he loved her, but he was often distracted. The ranch took most of his attention, and he believed children were women's work. Emily learned early not to expect much of his time. "His loss," Ethan said firmly. "Yes." Anna's voice was thoughtful. "I've watched you with her these past weeks. You see her, really see her. Do you know how rare that is? Most men barely tolerate children, especially girl children. But you treat her like she matters. She does matter. Anna turned to face him fully then, lamplight catching the copper in her hair. That's what I mean. You say it like it's obvious, but it's not. Not to everyone. She paused, seeming to gather courage. Emily told me what she said to you, about marriage being a package deal. Ethan's mouth went dry. Anna. No, let me say this. She held up a hand. I need you to know that I didn't put her up to it, but I also need you to know that she's right. We are a package deal, and any man who couldn't see what a gift that is, having both of us, well, he wouldn't be worth having. They sat in charged silence, the weight of possibilities heavy between them. Finally, Ethan spoke, his voice low and careful. I had a family once, a wife, a son. Lost them in a river crossing 6 years ago. I swore I'd never risk that kind of pain again. Anna's swift intake of breath was the only sound for a moment. Then, gently, I'm sorry. That must have been, I can't imagine. But lately, Ethan continued, needing to finish now that he'd started. Lately, I've been thinking that maybe living with a closed heart isn't really living at all. Maybe it's just existing. Yes, Anna whispered. I know exactly what you mean. They didn't say more that night, but something had shifted between them, fundamental as the turn of seasons. As Ethan made his way to the bunkhouse, he could hear Emily's voice drifting from her bedroom window, practicing her whistling. The thin, wavering notes spoke of determination, of hope, of the simple faith that with enough practice, anything was possible, including, perhaps, learning to be part of a family again, learning that package deals, as Emily called them, weren't something to fear but something to treasure, that adding another chair at the table didn't diminish anything but instead made room for more laughter, more stories, more love than a heart that had known loss dared to imagine. The autumn storm came without warning, rolling across the Wyoming plains like a dark wall of fury. Ethan had seen the signs that morning, the restless cattle, the way the horses bunched together in the corral, the strange yellow tinge to the eastern sky. But he'd hoped they'd have more time to prepare. By mid-afternoon, the wind was howling like a pack of wolves, driving sheets of rain horizontally across the ranch. The cattle, already spooked, broke through a section of fence weakened by the deluge, scattering across the range in panic. We've got to get them back, Anna shouted over the wind. Already heading for the barn, she'd changed into her late husband's old work clothes, practical in a storm, even if they hung loose on her smaller frame. It's too dangerous, Ethan called back, but she was already saddling her mare. He knew that look in her eyes, the same determination that had kept this ranch running for 2 years on her own. There was no talking her out of it. Emily, you stay in the house, Anna commanded as they led the horses out. The little girl stood on the porch, clutching a shawl around her shoulders, her face pale with worry. But Mama, mind me, Emily, bar the door and don't open it for anything until we return. They rode out into the teeth of the storm, the rain hitting like cold needles. The cattle had scattered in all directions, bawling their fear to the darkening sky, working together without need for words. Ethan and Anna began the dangerous work of herding them back toward safety. Anna rode like she'd been born in the saddle, anticipating the cattle's moves, cutting off escape routes with an expertise that would have impressed any cowhand, even in the chaos of the storm. Ethan found himself admiring her skill, her courage, the way she refused to yield to the elements. They were pushing the last group of strays toward the corral when disaster struck. A massive cottonwood, its roots loosened by the rain, came crashing down. Anna's mare reared in terror, and for one heart-stopping moment, Ethan watched as Anna fought to keep her seat on the rain-slick saddle. She almost made it, but the mare twisted sideways, trying to avoid the falling branches, and Anna was thrown. She hit the muddy ground hard, rolling to avoid the horse's hooves. But Ethan heard her cry of pain over the storm's roar. He was off his horse and at her side in seconds. shielding her from the worst of the rain with his body. "Where are you hurt?" "My ankle," she gasped, face white with pain. I think it's twisted bad." The cattle were scattering again, but Ethan didn't hesitate. He scooped Anna up in his arms, whistled sharp and loud for his horse. The well-trained animal came immediately, standing steady as Ethan lifted Anna into the saddle, then swung up behind her. "The cattle," she protested. "Hang the cattle," he said roughly, one arm tight around her waist to keep her secure. "We're getting you back to the house." By the time they reached the ranch, Anna was shaking with cold and pain. Emily flung open the door at their approach, her young face tight with fear that transformed to action, without being told. She ran for towels, stoked the fire higher, put water on to heat. Ethan carried Anna to the kitchen chair nearest the stove, then knelt to examine her ankle. It was already swelling, but he didn't think it was broken. "Just a bad sprain," he said with relief. "Emily, fetch the bandages from the medicine box." As he wrapped Anna's ankle with careful hands, she suddenly laughed, a shaky sound that held as much tension release as humor. "We saved most of them. The cattle. You're worried about cattle at a time like this?" Ethan shook his head, but there was admiration in his voice. "You could have been killed out there, but I wasn't." Her eyes met his, something fierce and vulnerable in them. "Because you were there." Emily returned with the medicine box and hovered anxiously as Ethan finished wrapping the ankle. "Is Mama going to be all right?" "She'll be fine, little one," Ethan assured her. "Just needs to stay off this foot for a few days." "A few days?" Anna struggled to sit up straighter. "I can't afford a few days. There's too much work." "Which I'll handle," Ethan said firmly. "That's what you hired me for." They were all soaked through, dripping puddles on the kitchen floor. Emily, with a practicality beyond her years, announced, "Everyone needs dry clothes. Mama, you'll catch your death sitting there all wet." It was decided that Emily would help her mother change in the downstairs bedroom while Ethan went to the bunkhouse for dry clothes. When he returned, the storm still raging outside, he found Anna settled on the settee near the fire, her injured foot propped up, wearing a warm wrapper. Emily had changed too and was busy making coffee with careful concentration. "We need to talk about the ranch," Anna said as soon as he entered. Her face was drawn with more than just pain. "This storm, the fence repairs alone will cost more than we have. And if we lost many cattle—" "How bad is it?" Ethan asked quietly, accepting the cup of coffee Emily proudly offered. Anna was silent for a moment, then seemed to make a decision. "Can you fetch the account books from the office? Top drawer of the desk." When Ethan returned with the ledgers, Anna spread them open on her lap. The pages told a story of careful management, of making do with the less, of gradually dwindling resources. The numbers were stark in their simplicity. Silver Creek Ranch was barely holding on. "The bank holds a note on the property," Anna said, her voice steady despite the blow to her pride this admission cost. "Thomas took it out for improvements that never quite got finished. I've been managing the payments, but just barely. This storm—" She gestured helplessly at the window where rain still lashed against the glass. "How long do we have?" Ethan asked, already thinking like a partner rather than just a hired hand. "Mr. Morrison at the bank has been patient, but his patience isn't infinite. If I miss next month's payment—" She didn't need to finish. Emily had been listening with the intense concentration children showed when they knew something important was happening. "Are we going to lose our home?" she asked in a small voice. "No," Ethan said firmly, before Anna could answer. "We'll figure something out." "We?" Anna looked at him sharply. Heat rose in Ethan's face, but he didn't back down. "You think I'd walk away now? Leave you and Emily to face this alone? You're not obligated. Obligation's got nothing to do with it." The words came out harsher than intended, and Ethan saw Emily flinch. He gentled his tone. "There's the Hendersons' place north of here. They've been wanting to buy some of our stock for their son's new spread, and the military fort's always needing remounts. I've got connections there from my travels. Those connections are yours, not the ranch's," Anna pointed out. "What's mine is—" Ethan stopped abruptly, realizing what he'd been about to say. The silence stretched, filled with unspoken possibilities. Emily, with her gift for breaking tension, piped up, "Maybe we could sell my red boots. They're barely worn." "Oh, sweetheart, no." Anna pulled her daughter close. "We're not that desperate." "Actually," Ethan said slowly, "Emily might be onto something. Not selling her boots," he added quickly, seeing the girl's face fall. "But there might be things we could sell. That old cultivator in the barn hasn't been used in years, and there's timber on the north section we could harvest." They spent the next hour going through possibilities, the storm gradually wearing itself out as they planned. Emily contributed her own suggestions with serious determination. They could sell eggs in town. She could help make preserves to sell, maybe take in washing. "Absolutely not," Anna said to the last suggestion. "We're not reduced to taking in washing. Pride won't pay the banknote," Ethan said gently. Anna's eyes flashed. "It's not pride, it's—" She stopped, struggling for words. "This ranch was Thomas's dream. 4 generations of Whitfields worked this land. I won't be the one who loses it." "You won't be," Ethan said. "We won't let that happen." There it was again. The word hung in the air between them, loaded with promise and complication. Later, after the storm had blown itself out and Emily had been sent to bed, Ethan and Anna sat in the kitchen going through the books more thoroughly. The lamplight created a circle of intimacy around the table, shutting out the world beyond. "I'm sorry," Anna said suddenly, "for snapping at you earlier. You're trying to help, and I'm being difficult." "You're being human," Ethan corrected. "This place means everything to you. I understand that." Anna traced a finger along the wood grain of the table. "After Thomas died, everyone said I should sell, move to town, find a nice widower to marry, give Emily a proper father. But this land, it's not just property. It's home. It's where Emily took her first steps, where she'll learn to be strong and capable, like her mother," Ethan said softly. Anna looked up at him then, and something passed between them. Understanding. Attraction. The recognition of kindred spirits who'd both known loss and learned to keep going anyway. "I should tell you," Anna said, her voice carefully neutral. "Hugh Morrison at the bank. He's made it clear that his interest in me is more than professional. He's suggested that if I were to accept his suit, the ranch's financial troubles would disappear." Ethan's hands clenched involuntarily. "Morrison's old enough to be your father. He's wealthy, established, respectable." Anna continued as if listing items on a mercantile shelf. "He'd provide security for Emily and me. But would he see Emily? Really see her?" Ethan's voice was rough. "Would he listen to her stories about hawks and robins' nests? Would he teach her to rope and whistle? Or would he expect her to be a quiet, proper banker's daughter?" "You know the answer to that," Anna said quietly. "Then you know what Emily would say about that deal." Ethan replied, "Some packages shouldn't be broken up, no matter the price." Anna's laugh was shaky. "When did my daughter's cowboy become so wise?" "Your daughter's a good teacher," Ethan said, then froze as he realized what she'd said. My daughter's cowboy. They stared at each other across the table, the ledgers forgotten. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving only the sound of water dripping from the eaves. Inside, another kind of storm was building, one made of longing and fear and the terrible hope that maybe, somehow, they could weather whatever came together. "Ethan," Anna began, but he shook his head. "We should focus on saving the ranch first," he said, though it cost him to be practical when every instinct urged him to pull her into his arms. "One storm at a time. One storm at a time." She agreed, but her eyes said they both knew the storm between them would not be so easily weathered or ignored. As Ethan made his way to the bunkhouse through the mud and puddles, he could see Emily's face in her bedroom window, watching. He raised a hand in greeting, and she waved back enthusiastically. Even from a distance, he could see her smile, bright as sun after rain, full of trust that the adults in her life would make everything right. He prayed she was right to trust them. Because somewhere between that first question about package deals and tonight's storm, Ethan Cole had stopped being just a hired hand He'd become part of something larger, a family in the making, if they could find the courage to claim it. The autumn fair in Cedar Ridge was the social event of the season, drawing ranchers and townfolk from miles around. The main street had been transformed with colorful bunting, food stalls offering everything from apple cider to fresh-baked pies, and games designed to separate folks from their coins for good causes. The air smelled of wood smoke, cinnamon, and the promise of winter coming. Ethan drove the wagon with Anna beside him. Her ankle finally healed enough for the trip to town. Emily sat between them, practically vibrating with excitement, wearing her best dress and, of course, her red boots. "Can we see everything?" Emily asked for the dozenth time. "The pie contest and the rope competition and the dancing? We'll do our best, little one," Anna promised, though Ethan noticed the tension in her shoulders. He knew she was thinking about their meeting with Morrison at the bank, scheduled for Monday. Today was meant to be a respite from worry, but such things had a way of creeping in. They'd barely arrived when Emily spotted her school friends and begged to join them. Anna nodded permission, and the girl scampered off with a promise to stay where they could see her. "She'll be fine," Ethan said, noting Anna's watchful gaze. "Half the county's here today." "I know." Anna smoothed her skirts. She was wearing her blue dress again, the one that made her eyes shine like deep water. "It's just, this is our first time in town together. People will talk." "Let them," Ethan said firmly, offering his arm. After a moment's hesitation, she took it. They wandered through the fair, stopping to admire quilts and preserves, listening to the fiddler on the courthouse steps. More than once, Ethan caught speculative looks from townspeople, heard whispers behind raised hands. Anna's chin lifted a little higher each time, but he felt the slight tremor in her hand on his arm. Mrs. Whitfield. What a pleasant surprise. They turned to find Hugh Morrison approaching, impeccably dressed despite the casual nature of the fair. He was a man in his 50s, silver-haired and distinguished, with the soft look of someone who'd never worked with his hands. "Mr. Morrison." Anna's voice was politely neutral. "You know my foreman, Mr. Cole." Morrison's eyes dismissed Ethan with a glance before focusing on Anna. "Indeed. I was hoping to speak with you about our Monday meeting. Perhaps we could find somewhere private." "Anything you need to say can be said here," Anna replied. Morrison's smile tightened. "Very well. I've been reviewing your account, and I believe I may have found a solution to your difficulties, one that would benefit us both." Ethan felt Anna stiffen beside him. "Oh, the Whitfield Ranch is a fine property. With proper management and additional investment, it could be quite profitable." Morrison moved closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "As my wife, you'd never have to worry about payments or storms or any of the hardships you've faced. Emily would have the finest education, the best opportunities. Mr. Morrison, I'm a patient man, Mrs. Whitfield, but even patience has limits. The bank can't carry non-performing loans indefinitely." His genial mask slipped slightly. "Without my intervention, you'll lose everything by Christmas. Is your pride really worth your daughter's future?" Before Anna could respond, Emily's voice rang out across the square. "Mama! Mr. Ethan, come see!" They turned to see her at the roping exhibition, bouncing on her toes with excitement. The distraction was welcome, giving Anna an excuse to step away from Morrison. "We should go," she said quietly. "Emily's waiting." Morrison caught her arm. "Think about what I've said, for Emily's sake, if not your own." Ethan had to physically restrain himself from knocking the man's hand away. Anna extracted herself with dignity, but he could see the shake in her hands. They made their way to where Emily stood watching the roping demonstration with wide eyes. Local cowboys were showing off their skills, lassoing fence posts with varying degrees of success. "You should enter, Mr. Ethan," Emily declared. "You're better than any of them." "I don't think." "Please." Emily turned those big eyes on him. "The prize is $5 whole. We could use it for the ranch." Anna touched his arm gently. You don't have to prove anything. But Ethan was looking at Morrison, who had followed them and stood watching with a smirk that suggested he knew exactly what kind of man Ethan was. A drifter, a hired hand, nobody who could truly compete for Anna Whitfield's hand. "Sign me up," Ethan said quietly. The competition was fierce. Ranch work was one thing, but performance roping was another skill entirely. Still, Ethan had learned from the best during his years drifting, including a season with a traveling Wild West show. When his turn came, he shut out everything: the crowd, Morrison's presence, even Anna and Emily watching. There was just him, the rope, and the target. The lasso sang through the air, landing clean and true. His second throw was even better. By the third, the crowd was cheering. He won by a clear margin, accepting the prize money with quiet satisfaction. But better than the $5 was Emily's fierce hug and the pride shining in Anna's eyes. "That was amazing," Emily crowed. "Did you see Mr. Morrison's face? He looked like he'd swallowed a toad." "Emily," Anna chided, but her lips twitched with suppressed laughter. They spent the afternoon enjoying the fair, or trying to. Morrison seemed to appear wherever they went, a reminder of Monday's looming deadline. Other townspeople were more subtle in their interest, but Ethan caught the speculative looks, heard Anna's name in whispered conversations. "Perhaps we should go," Anna said finally, after deflecting yet another concerned inquiry about her situation from a banker's wife. "Not yet," Emily protested. "The dancing hasn't started." As if on cue, the fiddler struck up a lively tune, and couples began forming for a country dance. Emily's face fell slightly. "I suppose I'm too young to dance." "Nonsense," Ethan said, bowing formally. "Miss Whitfield, would you honor me with this dance?" Emily's squeal of delight drew smiles from nearby folks. Ethan led her to the dance floor, adjusting his steps to accommodate her smaller stride. She concentrated fiercely on the steps, red boots flashing beneath her skirts, face glowing with joy. When the music ended, Emily curtsied with exaggerated elegance. "Thank you, kind sir. Now you must dance with Mama." "Emily," Anna began, but the fiddler was already starting another tune, this one slower and sweeter. Ethan held out his hand. "Mrs. Whitfield?" For a moment, he thought she'd refuse. Then, with a look that was part defiance and part surrender, she placed her hand in his. Dancing with Anna was nothing like dancing with Emily. She fit against him perfectly, moving with natural grace despite her recent injury. He could smell the lavender water she used, feel the warmth of her through the proper distance between them. "People are staring," she murmured. "Let them," he said, echoing his earlier words. "Anna, about Morrison." "I won't marry him," she said firmly. "No matter what happens with the ranch, Emily deserves better than a father who sees her as an inconvenience. She deserves everything." Ethan agreed. "So do you." Anna looked up at him then, and the rest of the fair seemed to fade away. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that some things are worth fighting for, worth taking risks for." His hand tightened slightly on her waist. "I'm saying that Emily's not the only one who understands about package deals. Ethan, I know I'm just a hired hand. I know I don't have much to offer compared to Morrison. But I also know that when I look at you and Emily, I see—" He paused, searching for words. "I see home. For the first time in 6 years, I see home." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "You have more to offer than you know. You have kindness and strength and patience. You see us, really see us. Do you know how precious that is?" The music ended, but they stood frozen for a moment longer, hands still clasped, hearts laid bare. Then Emily bounced up between them, breaking the spell. "That was beautiful, like a fairy tale. Mr. Henderson is bringing out his camera. Can we get a photograph, please?" They posed for the traveling photographer, trying to look serious as was the custom, though Emily's excitement made stillness nearly impossible. Ethan paid for the photograph without hesitation, ignoring Anna's protest. "Something to remember today by," he said simply, as the sun began to sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. They prepared to leave. Morrison appeared one last time, his expression cold. Monday, Mrs. Whitfield. Don't forget. I won't, Anna said steadily. Good day, Mr. Morrison. The ride home was quiet. Emily dozed between them, worn out from excitement. As they neared the ranch, Anna spoke softly. What you said about seeing home. I meant it, Ethan said. Every word. Then we'll fight, she said, determination replacing doubt. For the ranch, for Emily, for what might be, we'll find a way. Together? Together, she confirmed. And the word was a promise. That night, as Ethan headed to the bunkhouse, he found Emily waiting on the porch despite the late hour. You're supposed to be in bed, little miss. I know. She fidgeted with her nightgown. Mr. Ethan? That man, Mr. Morrison. Mama doesn't like him, does she? No, Ethan said honestly. She doesn't. But he might take our ranch if she doesn't marry him? Ethan knelt to her level. We won't let that happen. Promise? Her voice was very small. Promise we'll still be together? All of us? I promise I'll do everything in my power to keep us together, Ethan said, meaning it with every fiber of his being. Emily studied him with those two wise eyes, then nodded. Good, because we're a package deal, remember? And package deals stick together. She hugged him quickly, then scampered inside. Ethan remained kneeling in the darkness, feeling the weight of that small trust, that enormous faith. Come Monday, he'd face down bankers and bills and whatever else tried to tear this family apart, because somewhere between Emily's first question and tonight's promise, he'd stopped being just Ethan Cole, drifter. He'd become part of something worth fighting for, and fight he would. With everything he had, the Sunday night before the bank meeting found Ethan alone in the bunkhouse, staring at the ceiling as sleep eluded him. The numbers didn't lie. Even with selling the old equipment and some timber rights, they were still short. Morrison held all the cards, and he knew it. A soft knock interrupted his brooding. He opened the door to find Anna standing in the moonlight, a shawl wrapped around her shoulders. Couldn't sleep either, she asked. No, ma'am. He stepped aside to let her in. Propriety be damned. Been trying to think of solutions that don't exist. Anna sat on the single chair while Ethan perched on his bunk. I've been doing the accounts again. Even if we sell everything that's not nailed down, we're still short. Ethan finished. I know. They sat in silence, the weight of tomorrow pressing down on them. Finally, Anna spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I've been thinking about Thomas, about what he'd want me to do. Ethan waited, knowing she needed to work through this herself. He was a good man, but he was a dreamer, always had big plans that somehow never quite worked out. The improvements he borrowed for, a new irrigation system, blooded cattle from back east, none of it materialized. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. And here I am, about to lose everything because of dreams. Those weren't your dreams that failed, Ethan pointed out. You've kept this place running for 2 years on grit and determination alone. But it's not enough, is it? Anna looked at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I should have sold after Thomas died. Found a nice safe marriage for Emily's sake. Is that what you want? What I want? Anna stood abruptly, pacing the small space. What I want is to raise my daughter on the land her father loved. I want her to grow up strong and free, not stuffed into corsets and expectations in some townhouse. I want... She stopped, back to him. What? Ethan prompted softly. I want to choose, she said, turning to face him. Not be forced by circumstances or money or what's proper, just once. I want to choose based on what's in my heart. Ethan rose, drawn to her like a moth to flame. And what's in your heart, Anna? She met his gaze steadily. You know what's there. You've known since that first day when Emily asked her question. The space between them crackled with possibility. Ethan took a step closer, then another, until he could see the gold flecks in her eyes, count the freckles across her nose. Anna, he said roughly, I need you to know something. Tomorrow. When we meet with Morrison, no matter what happens, I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you send me away. Why? The word was barely a breath. Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being just a job. You and Emily, you've given me something I thought I'd never have again. A reason to stop running. A place to belong. He cupped her face gently. I lost my first family, and it nearly killed me. But maybe that wasn't the end of my story. Maybe it was preparing me for this. For you. Anna's tears spilled over then. I'm scared, Ethan, not of Morrison or losing the ranch, but of hoping, of believing we could have something real. Then let me hope for both of us, Ethan said. Let me believe enough for all three of us. Until you're ready. She leaned into his touch, and for a moment they stood there, foreheads touching, breathing the same air, sharing the same desperate hope. Then Anna pulled back, wrapping dignity around herself like armor. I should go. Emily will wonder where I am. Ethan let her go, but at the door she paused. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know, choosing you, that would never be about money or security or the ranch. It would be about love, the kind of love Emily understands instinctively. Package deal love. She was gone before he could respond, leaving him standing in the doorway, watching her silhouette fade into the house. Above, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, indifferent to human struggles, but Ethan found comfort in them anyway. They'd been there the night he lost everything. They'd be there tomorrow when he fought to keep from losing again. Monday dawned clear and cold, frost painting the grass silver. Emily was subdued at breakfast, pushing eggs around her plate. Do I have to go to school today? She asked. Can't I come with you? School is important, Anna said firmly, though Ethan could see the effort it took to maintain normalcy. Besides, Mrs. Patterson is expecting you to recite your poem today. I suppose. Emily looked between them. You'll both be here when I get home? Of course we will, Ethan assured her, praying it was a promise he could keep. They drove Emily to school in heavy silence, each lost in their own thoughts. As they headed to town, Anna finally spoke. I've made a decision. Whatever Morrison offers or threatens, I won't marry him. I'll lose the ranch first. It won't come to that, Ethan said with more confidence than he felt. The Cedar Ridge Bank and Trust was an imposing brick building designed to inspire confidence in depositors and fear in borrowers. Morrison kept them waiting 20 minutes past their appointment time, a power play that fooled no one. Finally, they were ushered into his office, all dark wood and leather that smelled of cigars and privilege. Morrison sat behind his massive desk like a king granting an audience. Mrs. Whitfield, Mr. Cole. He didn't offer them seats. I trust you've had time to consider my generous offer? I have, Anna said steadily, and I must decline. Morrison's face darkened. I see. Then you're prepared to settle your account in full? We're prepared to discuss terms. Ethan interjected. The ranch has assets. The ranch has debt. Morrison cut him off. And as of today, that debt is due. He pulled out a document, sliding it across the desk. Foreclosure proceedings will begin immediately, unless the full amount is paid by close of business. Anna's face went white, but her voice remained steady. That's not legal. We have until the end of the month. Read your loan documents. Mrs. Whitfield. The bank has the right to call the note at any time if we believe the collateral is in jeopardy. The recent storm damage certainly qualifies. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. You're doing this because she won't marry you. I'm doing this because it's business, Morrison replied smoothly. Though, I admit, I'm disappointed. I offered Mrs. Whitfield a very comfortable future. Pride is a luxury she can't afford. There has to be another way, Anna said. A payment plan, perhaps. The only plan I'm interested in has already been rejected. Morrison stood, clearly dismissing them. You have until 5 o'clock. Good day. They left the bank in stunned silence. On the street, Anna swayed slightly, and Ethan caught her arm. The livery stable, she said faintly. We can talk there, in the relative privacy of the stable, surrounded by the comforting smell of horses and hay. Anna finally let herself feel the full weight of disaster. It's over. Everything Thomas worked for, everything I fought to save, gone. Not yet, Ethan said fiercely. We have until 5 o'clock. To do what? Conjure money from thin air? Anna laughed bitterly. Face it, Ethan, Morrison wins. He'll buy the ranch at auction for pennies on the dollar, and we'll have nothing. Then we start over. Ethan said, Together. I've got some money saved. Not much, but enough to get us somewhere else. California, maybe, or Oregon. Somewhere Emily can still grow up free. Anna looked at him in wonder. You'd do that? Leave everything behind for us? I'd leave everything behind for you, Ethan corrected. You and Emily are all that matters. But the ranch is just land and buildings. Home is where your family is. He pulled her into his arms, propriety forgotten. We'll make a new home, build a new life. As long as we're together, we can face anything. Anna clung to him, drawing strength from his certainty. Emily will be heartbroken. She'll understand. She's the one who taught us about package deals. Remember? The package matters more than the wrapping. They stood there, holding each other, building courage for the hard choices ahead. Finally, Anna pulled back, wiping her eyes. We should go to the school. Tell Emily, well, ain't this a touching scene? They sprang apart to find Jake Morrison, Hugh's nephew, lounging in the stable doorway. He was everything his uncle wasn't, young, rough, with the mean eyes of someone who enjoyed others' pain. Uncle Hugh sent me to make sure you don't skip town before 5. Jake drawled. Seems he doesn't trust you, Mrs. Whitfield. Can't imagine why. We're not going anywhere, Ethan said coldly. Not with what you've got saved. Anyway. Jake smirked. Yeah, Uncle Hugh knows all about your little nest egg. Cole. Knows it ain't near enough to cover the note. Knows a lot of things about you. Like that family you lost. Shame. That. Man who can't protect his own family once probably can't do it twice. Neither. Ethan moved before thought. Had Jake by the throat against the stable wall before Anna could cry out. You don't talk about them, he growled. Ever. Ethan, no! Anna pulled at his arm. This is what they want. Don't give them an excuse to have you arrested. Slowly, painfully, Ethan released Jake, who straightened his collar with shaking hands. You're going to regret that. Cole, both of you are going to regret crossing the Morrisons. After Jake slunk away, Anna turned to Ethan. What did he mean? About knowing things about you? Ethan's jaw tightened. Morrisons had me investigated, looking for leverage. He met her eyes. There's nothing in my past I'm ashamed of. Anna, nothing that changes who I am now. I know, she said simply. I know exactly who you are. They retrieved the wagon and headed back to the ranch, needing to prepare for whatever came next. As they drove, Ethan's mind raced through possibilities. Options, plans. There had to be something they'd missed. Some way to fight back. Stop, Anna said suddenly. Stop the wagon. Ethan pulled up, concerned. What is it? Anna was staring at the landscape. Their landscape. The rolling hills dotted with cattle, the creek winding silver through the grass, the mountains rising blue in the distance. I'm memorizing it, she said softly, so I can tell Emily exactly how it looked, so we never forget. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. We're not giving up yet. We've got until 5 o'clock. What can possibly change between now and then? I don't know, Ethan admitted, but I learned something from Emily. Sometimes you have to have faith that things will work out, that package deals find a way to stick together. Anna leaned into him, drawing comfort from his warmth. Then I'll have faith too. For Emily, for us. They drove the rest of the way in silence, each praying for a miracle they couldn't name. The ranch had never looked more beautiful, autumn light painting everything golden. Whatever happened at 5 o'clock, they'd face it together. A package deal against the world. As they pulled up to the house, Ethan made a decision. win or lose. Tonight he'd tell Anna exactly what was in his heart. He'd waited too long already, letting fear hold him back. Emily had shown more courage with her simple question than he'd shown in 6 years of running. No more running. No more waiting. Whatever came next, he'd meet it as part of this family or not at all. The afternoon sun slanted through the kitchen windows as Anna and Ethan sat at the table. Papers spread before them like fallen leaves. They'd gone through everything twice: assets, debts, possibilities, and the numbers remained stubbornly unchanged. 3 hours, Anna said quietly, glancing at the clock. Emily will be home from school soon. We'll tell her together, Ethan said, reaching across to take her hand. She's strong, like her mother. A thunder of hooves in the yard made them both look up, through the window. They saw a rider dismounting, a woman in traveling clothes, her dark hair touched with silver. She moved with purpose toward the house. Anna frowned. I don't recognize her. When the knock came, Ethan answered it. The woman stood straight-backed despite her obvious fatigue from hard riding. Her eyes, startlingly blue, swept over him with keen assessment. I'm looking for Ethan Cole, she said. I'm Cole. Something about her seemed familiar, though he was certain they'd never met. I'm Margaret Hartley, she said. James's aunt, your late wife's sister. Ethan felt the world tilt behind him. Anna made a small sound of surprise. He hadn't seen any of Mary's family since the funeral, had deliberately lost touch in his grief. May I come in? Margaret asked. I've ridden from Denver, and time is short. They gathered in the parlor. Emily's portrait watching from the mantel as Margaret accepted a cup of coffee with grateful hands. I'll be direct, she began. I've been trying to find you for 2 years. Ethan, Mary's father, passed away last year, and there were complications with his estate, things we needed to discuss with you. I don't want anything from the Hartley family, Ethan said stiffly. They made their feelings clear when I married Mary. Margaret's smile was sad. Father was a stubborn fool. He regretted that estrangement every day after Mary died. He tried to find you, to make amends, but you'd vanished. I was drifting, working where I could. I understand. Margaret's eyes softened. Grief makes us do strange things. But Father left something for you, for James's father. He never forgot his grandson, even if pride kept him from knowing the boy in life. She pulled out a leather folder from her satchel. The Hartley ranch was sold last year to settle debts, but Father set aside a portion specifically for you. He hoped it might help you start again. Ethan stared at the bank draft she placed on the table. The amount was substantial, more than enough to pay off Silver Creek's debt. I can't take this, he said hoarsely. It's not charity, Margaret said firmly. Father owed you this and more. He owed Mary the chance to be happy, which she was with you, however briefly. Please, Ethan, let him make this one thing right. Anna had remained silent throughout, but now she spoke. Mrs. Hartley, we're grateful, but Ethan's right. This money belongs to him, not to our ranch. Margaret studied Anna with those penetrating eyes, then smiled. You must be the reason I finally found him. The investigator Morrison hired to dig into Ethan's past led me right here. Her smile widened at their shocked expressions. Oh yes, I know all about Hugh Morrison and his tactics. The investigator he hired happens to be my cousin. When he realized who Ethan was, he contacted me immediately. Morrison knows about this money? Ethan asked sharply. He knows Ethan Cole has connections to the Hartley family. He doesn't know about Father's bequest. My cousin made sure of that. Margaret leaned forward. But he did tell me about Morrison's schemes, about what he's trying to do to your family. We're not, Anna began, then stopped, color rising in her cheeks. Aren't you? Margaret asked gently. The investigator painted quite a picture. A good woman fighting to save her ranch, a little girl who asks profound questions about package deals, and a man who's finally stopped running from his grief. She looked at Ethan. Mary would be so pleased. Ethan's throat closed. Margaret? She wouldn't want you to mourn forever. Margaret continued. She'd want you to live, to love again, to be the kind of father to that little girl that you were to James. She stood, gathering her things. The money is yours. Ethan, what you do with it is your choice. But if I might offer advice, some things are worth saving. This ranch, this family you're building, they're worth saving. She moved toward the door, then paused. Oh, I almost forgot. She pulled out a small wrapped package. This was James's. Father saved it all these years. I thought, well, perhaps there's another child who might treasure it. After she left, promising to stay at the hotel in town, Ethan unwrapped the package with shaking hands. Inside was a small wooden horse, carved with patient love, painted with a child's enthusiasm. James had been learning to whittle, proud of his first real creation. Oh, Ethan, Anna breathed, seeing the tears on his face. He was so proud, Ethan said roughly. Carried it everywhere. I thought it was lost in the river. Anna moved to kneel beside his chair, not speaking, just offering her presence. After a moment, Ethan set the horse carefully on the table and looked at the bank draft. This doesn't belong to me, he said. It belongs to the past. No, Anna said firmly. It belongs to the future, to Emily, who needs a father who understands about treasuring what children create, to this ranch that could be a real home, to us, if we're brave enough. Ethan looked at her, this woman who'd fought so hard for her independence. I won't have you taking charity from me any more than I'd take it from Morrison. Then don't give it as charity. Anna's eyes sparked with sudden inspiration. Invest it, become a partner in Silver Creek, a real partner, with a stake in its future. Anna, think about it. She continued, warming to the idea. We could modernize, bring in better stock, maybe even that irrigation system Thomas dreamed about. Build something lasting, something Emily can be proud to inherit. And us? Ethan asked quietly. What about us in this partnership? Anna's cheeks flushed, but she met his gaze steadily. That would be a separate negotiation, one that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with the heart. The sound of wagon wheels interrupted them. Through the window, they saw the school wagon delivering Emily home. She jumped down, red boots hitting the dirt, and ran toward the house with her usual energy. Whatever we decide, Anna said quickly, we decide together as a family. Emily burst through the door, words tumbling out. Mama, Mr. Ethan, you'll never guess what happened. Mrs. Patterson said my poem was the best in class, and she wants me to recite it at the Harvest Festival. And Tommy Garrett said girls can't be poets, but I told him he was wrong, and... She stopped, sensing the charged atmosphere. What's wrong? Is it the bank? Are we losing the ranch? Ethan and Anna exchanged looks. Then Ethan held out his hand to Emily. Come here, little miss. We need to talk about some things, about families and futures and taking chances. Emily climbed into his lap without hesitation, small and trusting. Is it bad news? No, Ethan said, surprising himself with a certainty in his voice. It's news about new beginnings, about how sometimes, when you think you've lost everything, life gives you another chance. He told her about Margaret's visit, about the money, about the choice they faced. Emily listened with that intense concentration she brought to everything important. So we can save the ranch, she asked when he finished. We can save it, Anna confirmed. But more than that, we can make it better, make it truly ours. All of ours? Emily looked between them. Like a real family? That's a different question, Ethan said carefully. The ranch is business, but family is about choosing each other every day, good times and bad. Emily considered this. I already choose you both every day. That's what package deals do. The simple certainty in her voice undid them both. Anna reached out to smooth Emily's hair, her hand trembling slightly. Then I guess we'd better get to the bank, she said, before Mr. Morrison thinks he's won. They arrived at the bank at 4:47, 13 minutes before Morrison's deadline. The banker's face when they walked in. All three together, hands linked like a chain, was worth framing. Mrs. Whitfield, he said, recovering his composure. Come to accept the inevitable? Come to settle our account, Anna said calmly. In full. The next minutes were a blur of paperwork and barely concealed fury on Morrison's part. He examined the bank draft as if hoping it would prove counterfeit, questioned Ethan's identity twice, and generally made the process as difficult as possible. This doesn't change anything, he said finally, forced to hand over the cleared deed. You still have a ranch to run, still need supplies and credit. The bank has a long memory. Mrs. Whitfield. Then it's fortunate we'll be banking in Cheyenne from now on, Anna said sweetly. I hear they're more progressive about working with female ranch owners there. As they left the bank, Emily between them, the sun was just touching the mountains. The ranch, their ranch, waited for them, golden in the evening light. We did it? Emily breathed. We really did it. We did, Anna agreed, but she was looking at Ethan. The question now is what comes next. Ethan stopped walking, there on Main Street where anyone could see. What comes next is I court you properly. Anna Whitfield, take you to dances, bring you flowers, sit on your porch and talk about everything and nothing. What comes next is we build a life together, all three of us, based on choice instead of necessity. Is that a proposal? Anna asked, tears and laughter mixing in her voice. That's a promise, Ethan said. The proposal will come when you're ready for it, when you're sure this is what you want. I'm sure, Emily announced. I've been sure since I asked the question. Anna laughed, pulling her daughter close, out of the mouths of babes. She murmured. They headed home as the stars began to appear, one by one, like promises in the darkening sky. The ranch waited for them, no longer under threat, ready to be transformed by their joined efforts and dreams. That night, after Emily was in bed clutching the wooden horse that had found a new child to love it, Ethan and Anna sat on the porch planning their future. They talked about cattle and irrigation, about crops and improvements. But underneath ran a deeper current, the understanding that they were planning a life together. Margaret was right, Anna said softly. Some things are worth saving. And some things are worth building from scratch, Ethan replied, taking her hand. In her room, Emily whispered her prayers, adding a special thanks for package deals that stuck together and for cowboys who understood that marrying a mama meant marrying her little girl too. Through her window, the stars winked their approval, witnesses to the new family taking shape under the vast Wyoming sky. Christmas Eve came to Silver Creek Ranch dressed in white, snow falling soft as whispered promises throughout the day. The house glowed with warmth and lamplight, filled with the scents of cinnamon, pine, and the apple pies Anna had been baking since dawn. Emily stood on a chair in the parlor, stretching to place the star atop their Christmas tree, a magnificent pine Ethan had cut from the North Ridge. Her red boots were polished to shine for the occasion, and she wore her best green dress with careful pride. A little to the left, Anna directed, holding the chair steady. Perfect. The tree stood adorned with strings of cranberries and popcorn, paper angels Emily had made at school, and small candles waiting to be lit. Beneath it sat wrapped packages. More than in years past, though nothing extravagant. The real gift was in the security they'd built together these past months. It's the most beautiful tree in all of Wyoming, Emily declared, climbing down. Don't you think so, Mr. Ethan? Ethan looked up from where he was adjusting the fire. In the months since saving the ranch, he'd overseen the start of irrigation channels, negotiated contracts for spring cattle, and worked alongside Anna as a true partner. But more than that, he'd courted her as promised. Sunday drives, autumn dances, quiet evenings on the porch as snow began to dust the mountains. Second most beautiful, he said, his eyes on Anna, who blushed at the compliment. You two are mushy, Emily announced, but she was grinning. When are you going to get married already? Susie Miller says if you wait much longer, people will talk. Emily. Anna's blush deepened. That's not appropriate. Actually, Ethan said, standing and brushing off his hands. That's something I wanted to discuss tonight. The room went still, even Emily. rarely silent for long, held her breath. Ethan crossed to where Anna stood, taking her hands in his. "I know I said I'd wait until you were ready," he began. "But these past months, building this life together, watching you work miracles with the ranch books, seeing Emily grow taller and stronger every day, I realize I've been a fool. Ethan, not for waiting," he continued, "but for thinking there would ever be a perfect moment. Every moment with you two is perfect, even the hard ones, especially the hard ones, because we face them together." He released Anna's hands and pulled something from his pocket. Emily squeaked with excitement as he went down on one knee. There in their parlor with snow falling outside and the trees standing witness. "I don't have much to offer," Ethan said, opening the small box to reveal a simple silver ring with a single small stone. "But I promise to love you both, to work beside you, to listen to every story about birds and horses and dreams, to be the partner you deserve and the father Emily deserves." His voice roughened. "You saved me, Anna. You and Emily brought me back to life when I thought I'd never feel anything but grief again. So I'm asking, will you marry me? Will you make this partnership official in every way that matters?" Anna's tears were flowing freely now. "Oh, Ethan, wait," Emily interrupted. "I have something to say first." They both turned to her, Anna laughing through her tears. Emily stood very straight, hands clasped before her like she was reciting in school. "Mr. Ethan, when I asked if you'd marry me too if you married Mama, you said yes. You understood about package deals when nobody else did. You taught me to rope and whistle and whittle. You listen to all my stories and never say I talk too much. You treat Mama like she's precious but also strong. And you kept your promise about fighting for us." She took a deep breath. "So, I want to say, officially, that I choose you to be my papa. Not 'cause we need you, but 'cause we want you, 'cause you make our good life even better, like sugar on berries." Now Ethan's eyes were wet too. Emily moved to stand beside them, placing her small hand over their joined ones. "So, Mama," she said with a grin, "you better say yes, 'cause we're a package deal and I already decided." Anna laughed, a sound of pure joy. "How can I argue with that logic?" She looked at Ethan, love shining in her eyes. "Yes, yes to partnership, to marriage, to building a life and a family together. Yes to all of it." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled both of them into his arms. Emily squealed with delight, wrapping her arms around both adults as tight as she could reach. "We're getting married," she shouted. "All of us! It's a Christmas miracle!" Later, after supper and carols and Emily's excited planning of wedding details, Ethan remembered something. "I have gifts," he said, producing 2 wrapped packages from behind the tree. Emily tore into hers with enthusiasm, gasping when she revealed a leather-bound journal. "For your poems and stories," Ethan explained. "A writer needs proper tools." "Oh, it's perfect." She clutched it to her chest. "I'll write about everything, about today and the wedding and how we're a real family now." Anna opened hers more slowly, revealing a silver bracelet with 3 charms: a horse, a heart, and a small house. "The horse for how we met," Ethan explained softly. "The heart for what you've given me, and the house for the home we're building. It's beautiful," Anna whispered. "But I didn't get you. You've given me everything," Ethan interrupted. "A second chance at life. That's gift enough for a lifetime." "Well, I got you something," Emily announced, producing a somewhat lumpy package. "I made it myself." Inside was a leather cord with a wooden pendant, clearly Emily's work, painstakingly carved into the rough shape of 2 interlocking circles. "It's us," she explained. "See? 2 circles that become one shape, 'cause that's what families do." Ethan had to clear his throat twice before he could speak. "It's perfect, little miss. I'll wear it always." As midnight approached, they bundled up and stepped onto the porch to watch the snow fall. The ranch spread before them, peaceful under its white blanket, full of promise for the year ahead. "Next Christmas, we'll be the Coles," Emily said dreamily. "Emily Cole. I like how that sounds." Not too fast, young lady. Anna laughed. We have a wedding to plan first. A spring wedding, Emily decided. When the wildflowers bloom, and I'll wear my red boots with my fancy dress. And Ethan will teach me to dance proper for the reception. And right now, a certain young lady needs to get to bed or Santa might pass us by. Anna interrupted fondly. Emily hugged them both good night, then paused at the door. You know what the best part is? I won't have to ask my question anymore. Everyone will know. If they marry Mama, they married me too, 'cause we'll all have the same name. After she went inside, Ethan and Anna remained on the porch, his arms around her, watching the snow fall like blessings from heaven. She's right, you know, Anna said softly. About the best part. No more uncertainty, no more wondering where we fit, just family. The kind of family I thought I'd never have again, Ethan said, pressing a kiss to her hair. Thank God for little girls who ask big questions. Thank God for cowboys who understand the right answers. Anna replied, turning in his arms. Merry Christmas, my love. Merry Christmas, future Mrs. Cole. They sealed their engagement with a kiss there in the snow. While inside, Emily pretended to sleep, but really pressed her face to the window, grinning at the sight of her parents. For that's what they were now, truly, embracing in the lamplight. In the barn, the horses nickered softly, settling for the night. The cattle huddled together against the cold, safe in their winter pasture and in the house. A little wooden horse sat on the mantel next to Emily's portrait, past and present united in the promise of tomorrow. The star atop the Christmas tree caught the lamplight and threw it back in tiny rainbows, like hope made visible. And in her bed, Emily whispered one more prayer of gratitude for package deals and second chances and the magic of a child's simple question that had changed everything. Come spring, there would be a wedding. Come summer, there would be new life on the ranch, crops and cattle and dreams taking root. But tonight, on this holy eve of miracles, there was just this: a man, a woman, and a child, bound together by choice and love, proving that families aren't just born but made, one precious moment at a time. The snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in fresh starts and new beginnings. And in the house at Silver Creek Ranch, 3 hearts beat as one. Package deal complete at last, spring came to Wyoming like a shy bride, slowly at first, then in a rush of wildflowers and green grass. The small church in Cedar Ridge had never looked finer, decorated with prairie roses and Indian paintbrush, their colors bright against the whitewashed walls. Emily stood at the church entrance, practically vibrating with importance in her role as flower girl. Her dress was new, pale yellow like spring butter, but on her feet were the famous red boots, polished until they gleamed like garnets. Remember, Anna said, adjusting Emily's flower crown one last time. Slow steps, just like we practiced. I know, Mama, I've been practicing for months. Emily clutched her basket of flower petals. This is the most important job in the whole wedding. Anna smiled, her own nerves settling at her daughter's confidence. She wore her mother's wedding dress, carefully altered and updated, ivory silk that caught the morning light. Margaret Hartley had helped with the preparations, having extended her stay to witness what she called the completion of a beautiful story. You look like an angel, Mama, Emily breathed. Papa, is going to cry when he sees you. I hope not. Anna laughed, though her own eyes were suspiciously bright. We need him able to say his vows. The church bell began to ring, its bronze voice carrying across the valley. Through the window, they could see wagons and horses arriving, neighbors and friends gathering to witness this union that had captured the community's heart. Even Hugh Morrison had grudgingly sent a wedding gift, perhaps finally accepting his defeat. Inside the church, Ethan stood at the altar in his new black suit, trying not to fidget with the wooden pendant at his throat. Emily's gift, which he'd worn every day since Christmas. Beside him, Sam Turner from the neighboring ranch served as best man, grinning at his friend's obvious nerves. "Steady there, Cole," Sam murmured. "You've faced down storms and bankers. One wedding can't be worse than that." "This is different," Ethan replied, his voice rough. "This is everything." The organ wheezed to life. Played by Mrs. Patterson with more enthusiasm than skill. The congregation rose, turning toward the entrance. First came Emily, taking slow, deliberate steps, scattering rose petals with intense concentration. Her red boots flashed beneath her hem with each step, drawing fond chuckles from the crowd. When she reached the altar, she looked up at Ethan with a grin that could have lit the entire church. "I didn't walk too fast," she whispered loudly. "Are you ready to marry us?" "I've been ready since the day you asked," he whispered back, earning another ripple of laughter from those close enough to hear. Then the music swelled, and Anna appeared in the doorway. Sunlight streamed through the windows, turning her into something ethereal. But it was the joy on her face that stopped Ethan's breath. This woman who'd fought so hard, who'd been so strong alone, was choosing to share her strength with him. Their eyes met across the church, and everything else faded. The crowd, the music, even Emily's excited bouncing. There was just Anna, walking toward him with sure steps, bringing with her all the promise of their future together. When she reached the altar, Ethan couldn't help himself. He reached out to touch her face, just gently, as if to assure himself this was real. "You're crying," Anna whispered, smiling through her own tears. "Happy tears," he managed. "The happiest." Reverend Mills cleared his throat gently. "Dearly beloved, we gather today to witness something special, not just the union of a man and woman, but the formal creation of a family that has already formed in their hearts." Emily stood between them, holding both their hands, making them a circle even before the vows were spoken. The Reverend smiled down at her. "I understand the flower girl has something to say." Emily nodded solemnly. "I do. I want everyone to know that this isn't just Mama getting married. It's all of us. We're a package deal, and package deals stick together. So when you see us after today, you'll know we chose each other. All of us." There wasn't a dry eye in the church. Even Sam Turner had to clear his throat suspiciously. The Reverend, visibly moved, continued with the ceremony. The vows were traditional, but the emotion behind them was anything but. When Ethan promised to love and cherish, his voice broke on the words. When Anna promised to honor and obey, a promise that drew knowing looks given her independent spirit, she added quietly, "As we honor each other." "The rings?" the Reverend asked. Emily proudly produced the gold bands from her flower basket. "I kept them safe," she announced, as Ethan slipped the ring onto Anna's finger. He spoke the words he'd memorized but felt in his bones. "With this ring I thee wed. With my body I thee worship. With all my worldly goods I thee endow." Anna's response was steadier but no less emotional. The rings gleamed in the sunlight, simple gold circles that somehow contained all their hopes and dreams. "By the power vested in me," Reverend Mills intoned, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Mr. Cole, you may kiss your bride." But before he could, Emily tugged on Ethan's coat. "What about me? Don't I get pronounced too?" The Reverend, bless him, didn't miss a beat. "And I pronounce you," he said solemnly to Emily, "officially and forever, daughter of this union, a family complete." "Now can they kiss?" Emily asked, causing the congregation to erupt in laughter. Ethan swept Anna into his arms, kissing her soundly while Emily clapped and the church bells rang in celebration. When they finally parted, he scooped Emily up with one arm, holding his girls close as they faced their community as a family. The reception was held at the ranch, tables set up in the yard now green with spring grass. Margaret had insisted on providing the feast, her wedding gift, she said, along with a promise to visit regularly now that she'd found family again. Emily held court at the children's table, regaling anyone who'd listen with the story of how she'd known from the beginning that Mr. Ethan was meant to be their family. "I asked him straight out," she told Susie Miller importantly, "and he understood right away about marrying both of us. That's how I knew he was the right one." At the main table, Anna leaned into her new husband's side. "No regrets?" she asked softly. "Last chance to run." "The only place I'm running," Ethan replied, "is home, with you and Emily, every day for the rest of our lives." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, the fiddler struck up a waltz. Ethan led Anna onto the makeshift dance floor, holding her as they'd held each other that day at the autumn fair when everything had still been uncertain. "Look," Anna murmured, nodding toward where Emily was teaching the other children her version of dancing. Red boots kicking up dust. "Our daughter. Our daughter," Ethan repeated, the words still wondrous on his tongue. "Our family." Other couples joined them on the dance floor. Sam Turner with his wife, the Hendersons, even Mrs. Patterson with the widower blacksmith she'd been sweet on. The community that had watched Anna struggle alone, that had seen Ethan arrive broken and withdrawn, now celebrated the healing they'd found in each other. As night fell and lanterns were lit, creating circles of warm light in the darkness, Emily found her way back to her parents. She was drooping with exhaustion but fighting sleep with determination. "I don't want today to end," she said, cuddling between them on a bench. "It's been perfect." "The day might end," Ethan said, pressing a kiss to her flower crown. "But we're just beginning. Tomorrow we'll wake up in the same house, work the same ranch, be the same family, only now everyone knows what we've known all along. That we belong together," Emily murmured, already half asleep. "That we belong together," Anna confirmed, meeting Ethan's eyes over their daughter's head. Later, after the guests had gone home and Emily was tucked in bed, insisting on wearing her red boots, even to sleep, just for tonight, Ethan and Anna stood on their porch, looking out over the land that was truly theirs now in every sense. "I have one more gift for you," Ethan said, pulling out an envelope. Inside was a legal document. "I had the lawyer draw this up. Official adoption papers for Emily, if you're willing." Anna's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, Ethan. She's been my daughter in my heart since that first day," he said simply. "This just makes it legal. Makes sure she knows that choosing goes both ways. She chose me, and I choose her, forever and always." "Yes," Anna said through tears. "Yes, of course, yes." They stood there in the darkness, holding each other, listening to the night sounds of their ranch, their home. Somewhere an owl called, and the creek whispered its eternal song. The stars wheeled overhead, witnesses to all the small miracles that had brought them to this moment. "You know what Emily would say?" Anna murmured against his chest. "What's that?" "That sometimes a little girl's question can change everything. That package deals are the very best kind of deal. And that cowboys who understand about marrying mamas and daughters, too, are worth their weight in gold." Ethan laughed softly. "She'd be right, about all of it. She usually is." Anna agreed. "Our wise little girl. Our wise little girl," Ethan repeated. And the words were a promise, a prayer, and a declaration all at once. In her room, Emily smiled in her sleep, red boots peeking out from under her quilt, dreaming of all the tomorrows stretching ahead like an endless Wyoming sky. She'd asked a question once, on a hot summer day when the world had seemed uncertain and lonely. Now she had her answer, spoken in church bells and wedding vows, in legal papers and flower petals, in the simple, everyday miracle of two people choosing to build a life together. The snow would come again to Silver Creek Ranch, and the spring after that. There would be hard times and good times, laughter and tears, all the ordinary extraordinariness of family life. But tonight, in this perfect moment between what was and what would be, there was just this: a mother, a father, and a daughter, bound by choice and love and the understanding that some packages are too precious to ever unwrap. The moon rose over the mountains, full and bright, blessing the little ranch where love had worked its patient magic. And in the morning, they would wake as they would every morning after, together, a package deal complete. Proof that sometimes the most important questions come from the smallest voices, And the best answers are worth waiting for. Thank you for listening to this heartwarming tale from the Wild West. If you enjoyed Emily's story of love, family, and second chances, we'd love to hear from you. Please comment below and let us know where in the world you're listening from. It's amazing how these frontier stories touch hearts across the globe. Don't forget to subscribe to the From Wild West channel for more authentic tales of courage, romance, and the enduring spirit of the American frontier. Share your thoughts about Emily's question and how it changed 3 lives forever. Until next time, partners.